The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, please visit our website at dallasgenealogy.com.
Okay. Well, I am going to introduce Brandon Murray. He has been with the library, the J. Eric Johnson Central Library, since June 2015. Before that, from 2012 to 15, he was at Southern Methodist University, where he created metadata for digitized photographic collections intended for the Central University, and then a long list of other projects. He holds a Master's of Library and Information Science degree from SMU. Today he's talking about the Archives collection on the 7th floor of the Central Library. It is one of the largest of its kind in the nation. Its holding spans many aspects of the diverse history, not only of Dallas and the surrounding area, but for the entire state of Texas. This includes, the highlights of the collection includes a photo lab, the digitized collections and Dallas County records, oral histories, photographs, manuscript collections, and finding guides and find books division. Again, when the library reopens, I encourage all of you to stop by the 7th floor, and Brandon is going to tell us why. So Brandon, I am going to stop sharing, and I am going to let you bring up your screen. Meanwhile, I ask everyone to stay muted. You will have an opportunity to ask questions, to unmute at the end of his talk. So we are going to let Brandon start his.
All right, we're seeing your presentation. It looks good.
Good. Thank you.
So let me know if you can see the screen, all right? But I am a certified archivist with the Dallas Public Library. And although we are closed, we are doing a number of initiatives while we're closed to give access to things remotely. And this PowerPoint was partially created before, the COVID issue. So some of the information doesn't reflect our virtual initiatives, but I will do my best to sort of update that as I go along verbally. So, who we are, we have a large collection of Dallas history and materials. We're the largest of its kind in the nation. Our holdings span many diverse areas, including Dallas, but also some things around Texas as well. We collect, preserve, and make available text, graphic, audio, and video formats. Because of many of our materials are unique and fragile, they cannot be viewed outside the library, but we do have a reading room when we're open that people can come in and look at things and request things to get pulled. And we also have a Find Books division, which houses a lot of rare and unique books that deal with the history of Western civilization and very unique instances of printed works and whatnot. So to give you a little bit of background, the 7th floor closed in March of 2015 and was renovated completely and reopened in August of 2016. We had over 250 pallets of material that were moved and off the 7th floor during that time, and then were brought back. There was a $6 million renovation, and here's a picture of what our reading room looks like now, post renovation, and it's. Even though you can't access it currently, we do have a lot of materials that are really useful. We have over 65,000 books, city directories, school annuals, a JFK assassination collection, serials, both current and historical, biographies. We also have vertical files, which include newspaper clippings. A lot of those include Times Herald, which is useful because the Times Herald is not currently available online. We do have the complete collection on microfilm, but the clipping file is good because you can often find things that are specific to a specific subject that were clipped from the Times Herald. So it's a good way to find those without having to go through a lot of reels manually. We have a lot of maps and blueprints. We have a large map collection, in fact. We have over 475 manuscript collections and counting. We have a large photograph archive, and we encourage people to, if they're looking to get rid of old photographs, or if they know of people that have interesting photographs in their home or things like that, family heirlooms, that kind of thing, and they're looking to dispose of them, consider donating it to the library. We will take it. We will take things and assess them for adding to our collection. And a lot of things, might be good. We're especially looking for things, photographs that cover anything from the late 80s to present day, to sort of make sure that we have a representative amount of photographs from the 90s and 2000s as well, because that eventually will become very historical as time goes on. We have the Dallas County District minutes on microfilm, and as I mentioned, the Times Herald on microfilm as well. We have over 1.5 million photographs in our photograph collection. There are about 7,000 of them in the public access catalog, the library online catalog. One of my main initiatives is trying to, getting more of those. So one of the main things I've been doing while the library has been closed is working on increasing the number of images that we have data for that we can put online, and with photographs, so you can actually search the catalog like you would a reference for looking for books, and you'd be able to find digital photograph versions that you can look at from home. So among our manuscript collections are subjects that include there are pioneer families, architectural collections, things about ethnic communities in Dallas, whether they're African American, Mexican American, and so forth. Council members and mayors collections, business histories. We have the DGS has their own manuscript collection, which covers from what I have as 1960 through 2019, with additions that they have made periodically. So that's we have that collection here, and it's a very robust collection that we're proud to have in our holdings. So the Fine Books Division has over 2,750 volumes that were donated to the city of Dallas, and they basically focus on 3 areas, which is the history of printing and the book, the history of ideas, especially Western civilization, and then examples of fine printing, or what is known as the art of the book. And those can only be viewed but when we're open by appointment only, whereas the items that are in the regular reading room, the Dallas History Collection, can be viewed by coming in when we're open eventually, and then also by contacting us for email to get us to send digital scans or be able to look up things for you. So excuse me, this is a picture of our homepage that we have on the website of the library. So it's the library website, and then you add Dallas History at the end of it. You can see a number of little icons there, Dallas History, Fine Books. We've got an exhibits page that we're working to update to have online exhibits, a maps area, and then some information about our photographs and different archival collections. So you might wonder how this helps genealogists. And so, well, the 8th floor is specifically focused on, genealogy information and has been rated among the top in the country. The 7th floor has a lot of specifically Texas and Dallas related connections that would be useful for local research in the Dallas area. So to successfully document an ancestor, you have to know the following things: their name, their approximate date of birth or death, and the location where they resided. To find that information, they often rely on census and census substitutes, tax records, vital records, cemetery records, obituaries, and marriage records. And so a number of those things are available, both in the library and digitally as well. As you know, the U.S. Census, is every 10 years. And so basically from 1790 to 1940, those are available to the public. With the 1890 records, obviously there was a fire which made them, destroyed many of them. So that is a year where a lot of information is not available. And then as of the 1880 census, they started listing family members, and that is available, online, as well as available in microfilm through on the 8th floor from 1790 to 1930. The 8th floor also has a sound X system, which is used for sort of deciphering the codes that of like sound-alike names, and that's a picture of it right there, of how that works. Because oftentimes when census takers would take names, they would do it, based on what they heard someone say. So the spelling can be often very different. So that system is very useful because, there's also a national website, which is here, that explains how you can use that to sort of be able to decipher sound-alike names, because sometimes a record might be the relative you're looking for, but their name might be spelled differently. Tax records are your yearly listings of residents and the status. Basically, they're helpful. Sorry about this. It keeps going one slide ahead. It's helpful in determining when a person arrives or departs an area, either by relocating or death, and also if they died, the next year might reflect like the name of the widow. The tax records are also on microfilm on the 8th floor. They were on the 7th floor years ago, but after the renovation, they were moved to the 8th floor. So one of the things that we have on the 7th floor that we can look up for you via email reference is doing city directory lookups. If you're able to come in once we're reopened, we have a large collection of city directories, which are crisscross and also on microfilm, which we can list ancestors' residences, their occupations in many cases, list their wife's name depending on the book you're looking at. And so one thing to note though is that it took them a year to compile the information. So if you're looking at the 1950 directory, for instance, it actually is reflecting the 1949 information, because it would take them a year to actually put them together. And so as part of going to our unit website at dallaslibrary2.org/DallasHistory is you can look up to see what years we have for city directories. You can see what years we have for newspapers, for annuals. All those things are listed on the website itself. So that's a good thing, so you can be able to see if we have it, before you'd even worrying about contacting us or coming in, and that way you can specifically pick what you're trying to find before you even get to the point of contacting us. It helps you guys out in that regard. So older city directors have 3 types of listings: by name, whether it's the person or business, by street after 1901, arranged alphabetically by street and name, and then by number. Types of businesses or occupations, such as grocers or attorneys, that kind of thing. The streets were renumbered a couple of times in 1891 to 92 and then 1911. So the 1911 directory gives both the old and the new numbers. So that's a good directory to sort of figure out what the switchover was. If you're researching buildings that predate 1901, you can find the 1901 directory listing and note the name of the occupant, and then trace the name of the occupant in the early directories. When using city directories, you want to refer to the beginning of the directory, because it's got a list of helpful abbreviations and symbols and demographic information. And then some early directories may actually have death dates. So this is a screenshot from a Worldleaf directory. You can see there's a lot of information there in the early front pages. This is a list of abbreviations, which is useful for figuring out what things mean in the directories, because there's a lot of code that they use. And this is also a more modern directory from 1998 that actually breaks down what you're looking at in a listing specifically. And so you can see that it has a lot of different abbreviations, and it tells you where the address is, what their name is, that kind of thing. If they're the homeowner, there's a key basically to deciphering, what you're looking at by looking at the front of the directory. So that'll help with confusion, because there really is a lot of information there, but it's all sort of in code, so you have to be able to know how to decipher it when you're looking at it. So vital records, birth and death records are a modern record. Vital records were not required to be recorded prior to 1903, except for a very brief time in the 1870s, and many births and deaths from 1903 up to as late as 1930 were never recorded. Some births during this time were later recorded in the 1930s as probated or delayed births. What is available for Texas is located on Ancestry.com. And as I'll get to in a minute, while we're closed, we're actually giving access to the library's Ancestry Library account for our customers remotely. So you can actually access that without having to come in the building. And it's also important to note that death certificates are a primary source, but they contain secondary information. Vital records, the library does have some of those. So we've got indexes from 1903 to 1987, birth certificates from 1903 to 1932. Birth records are closed and confidential in Texas for a period of 75 years. Death records, we have indexes from 1903 to 2000. Death certificates from 1903 to 1982. I believe these are on microfiche. Death certificates are closed and confidential for a period of 25 years. And then you can find these records also online at ancestrylibrary.com or with Family Search, where you'd have to set up a username and password for Family Search, but you can actually use your library card to do Ancestry Library to the library right now. So the Bureau of Vital Statistics is in the Central Library building, and this is their number here, 214-670-3248. And right now they're doing things by appointment, so you can call ahead of time and arrange to come into the garage on the Central Library building, and they will come out to your car and take your documents and be able to give you what you're looking for if you make an appointment ahead of time. So there is sort of a curbside service that they're offering right now that includes birth certificates, death certificates, birth abstracts. They have an acknowledgement of paternities, funeral home service, and notary service aspects to what they do there. And so even though we are, the building's closed, they are still serving the public. So that's important to note. So burial records often provide birth and death dates. Mortuary records are also helpful. And then a number of Dallas cemeteries have been published. I know you all have a listing of things on your website that are really useful as far as cemeteries in the area. There's also a book by Shirley Sloat of Dallas County Records of Interest to the Genealogists and at the J. F. Eric Johnson Library. And that is a really good book to determine kind of what what we have in the library, what we had at the time that it was published. And we have a copy here on the 7th floor that we can always refer to, or once we're open, you can always come in and look at. And that's a good guide for, being able to look quickly to see what you can find to get you started. We'd also, as it's been mentioned before, have the Oakland Cemetery Records. It's one of the largest and earliest cemeteries in Dallas. They're online and through the GS website. And there is some microfilm in the genealogy section on the 8th floor, but we have the actual physical records here on the 7th floor, which include the interment cards, which have the lot and section cards as well. So you've got the name, the date of birth, the death, the burial, next of kin, and it says the extended cause of death, if the death was notable, the names of all those buried in the plot, whether or not there is a gravestone. There's some obituaries with some photographs of all the burials in a lot. And there's a limited family tree information among the things we have in this collection. And our manager, Christine Charbrough, has very much been working with this collection as well. So she can be a point of contact for that if people have questions about it specifically. So there are published abstracts, for Texas counties, both on the 7th and 8th floors. And then again, you can go to Find a Grave or billiongraves.com to look things up online as well. So obituaries are, they're a great source for obtaining information about the deceased. The further back you go, however, the information may become less helpful. Newspapers are a vital source for birth and death information contained in the obituaries. And we have a large collection of Texas newspapers on microfilm. Again, on our division website, there's a complete list of the newspaper holdings on microfilm as well. And we've got stuff, we don't have, every newspaper that ever existed in Texas, but we do have a large number of different cities and different time periods and different publications. So that's a good place to start. And obituaries were just a small part of information that was located in newspapers. Like I said before, we have the clipping files, which can be useful because we've also got, in addition to the subject files, we've got bio files for people by last name. So if last name was like, say Johnson, for instance, you'd look at the Johnson bio file. So anybody that was notable with that last name would be included in that file, which might have information that you would need for your search. Newspapers are a good resource in a lot of ways. They have notices of deeds of transfer. They have probate matters that have been published in the newspaper, depending on the article. Civil and criminal court proceedings are mentioned. There's marriages, births announcements, anniversary announcements, and And then the Dallas newspapers would pick up information from all over the state. So you might find things from other parts of Texas that are in a Dallas newspaper article. So the other thing too is that funeral homes as a resource are really good, because a lot of times now, instead of taking an obituary out in the paper, the funeral home will have an obituary or something, a memorial text of some kind on their website. So that's another option online now that you can search. And it's important to note also that not everybody would necessarily has an obituary, because someone would actually have to decide to create one and pay to have it run in the newspaper. So there may not be an obituary for everyone, but it's a good place to look to see if there's one. So we've got the Dallas Morning News Historical Database. So the way that works is it's actually two databases in one, but there's also in Newsbank, which is the larger database. If you go to the databases tab on the library website, if you go to newspapers and magazines and journals, Newsbank is one of the options, and that actually has within it the Dallas Morning News archive, and then that goes from 1885 to 1984 historically, and then it's got a modern archive built into that, which is, I believe, 1985 through 2016. We have microfilm that I believe goes all the way to through 2019 now. So we've updated our microfilm holdings for the morning news there. We've also got in the Newsbank database the Star Telegram from 1902 to 1991, and then the Morning Register, which was a much older paper in Fort Worth from 1897 to 1902, is also on Newsbank. The important thing to note about both the Star Telegram listings and the morning news up until 1984 is they will show you what the actual article looked like in the paper. It's a PDF document of it. The morning news after 1984 will only show you electronic text of the article. It won't show you what it looks like. However, if you contact us, we can oftentimes, if you got the electronic article of the more modern date, say like 1996 or something, and you got the exact date, it's very easy for us to do a potential lookup in the microfilm version to get you a copy of what it looked like in paper if you contact us for a reference request. And so that's something to consider. I've also heard that it's not very consistent with having a lot. They've got obituaries are often in the historical database for the morning news that stops in 84, but the modern morning news database doesn't really have obituaries consistently, is what I understand. But again, we have the microfilm that you can use once we're open, or you can contact us to have that done on your behalf. So marriage records, the best source for learning the female's maiden name would be in marriage records. Dallas County's Index to Marriage Records are from 1846 to 1963, located on microfilm on the 8th floor. The marriage records themselves are only available at the Dallas County Clerk's Office. I believe that's on the 21st floor of Renaissance Tower on Elm Street. A few years ago, they moved their offices. So this is, I believe, where they're currently located. And marriage records indexes, however, for most Texas counties are available on microfilm on the 8th floor, and they're also published abstracts for Dallas County are on the GGS website as well. So after you've identified, the person's name, where their locality was, and their birth and death dates, what's next? What else can you do? And so there's a lot more you can look up to get a more complete picture. You can get look for land records, probate records, court records, maps, published histories, military records, church records, yearbooks, serials and magazines, and the manuscript collections that we have here. And it's good to note that a family leaves more records than an individual does. So if you want to look for collateral associations of family members, then you can find, something useful for, what you're searching for. So land records, the Texas Land Survey maps for Dallas County and Sam Street's maps are available in the library catalog. We have, published land surveys other than Texas counties as well. There's an index of early deed records that are on the 8th floor as well. So we have some probate records on microfilm, both in the 7th and 8th floors, and case papers from 1846 to 1900. After 1900, the indexes are located at the county clerk's office. And then during slavery, some slaves were sometimes included as property, and may have the person's name, the slave owner's name or the name of the slave. So that's unfortunately, because they were listed as property, that might give you other information because of how they did it at the time. So we do have district court records and divorce and civil court records on the 7th floor. We've got naturalization papers as well, a published index for the case papers from 1872 to 1912, and a declaration of intention that goes between 1889 and 1903 on microfilm. There's also inquest records for each district in Dallas, and we may have death certificates from the Justice of the Peace or a coroner, depending on the individual record. So that's there's a listing of our civil court papers available online, and if you contact us, we can do our best to find the information, the index information that we have for those court records. So there's also published histories that we have in the archive, including mug book histories about Dallas. So that have like individuals, sort of biographical information, family histories, biographies, and historical overviews about Dallas and aspects of Dallas, as well as the same things for other counties in Texas. So we've got reference books that cover various counties throughout Texas and sort of their histories as well, which can be useful for finding information when you're looking for genealogical stuff. Military records, the best source for that, are located on the 8th floor. They have the National Archives and Records Administration records from the American Revolution all the way to the Philippine insurrection. And I believe as of a couple years ago, they were starting to get World War I records as well. The full 3 database available to the library database listings actually has a lot of military records online, which is really useful. I actually found my great-grandfather, a request to have a burial request because he was in the service was available on full 3 when I looked a couple years ago. Church records are very interesting because they establish an ancestors of religion, and it also once you know what their religious background is, you can sort of see what you can find, because not all church records are created equal. It's important to note that if your ancestor is Catholic, vital information is often contained in registers belonging to dioceses. If they are, for instance, Baptist, except for finding church histories and records of membership, there is often very little vital information. So it depends on the denomination or the religious background. They may not have the same type of record keeping, but they're, you might be able to still find something that's used depending on the situation. We have yearbooks that might contain, early photos of an ancestor, as well as magazines that might have other articles about them. And as I said, manuscript collections that we have could contain letters, diaries, and other papers, and ephemera that might be related to an ancestor. And they might have information on people that have interacted with your ancestor, or places they've been or resided. So certain genealogical collections exist within manuscript collections. So, once you can also search a listing of those on our website. And then if you go to the Texas Archival Resources Online website, or TARO, you can search for the Dallas Public Library's holdings on that, and it will give you a list of finding aids of the ones we have put online, and that you can search for specific information that's in the boxes and folders and things like that. So a number of the online databases that we have available, as I mentioned before, the Ancestry Library Edition is available at home through the end of the year because of the current situation we have with the library being closed. We've got American Ancestors, Family Search, Affable Library Records, Affiliate Library Records, History Geo is another option, and Newspaper Archive as well. So when you're in the library, these are things you can look at, with the exception of Family Search, which is one that is now available online to the end of the year. So from home, you can look at Fold 3, Genealogy Bank, as I mentioned, News Bank, which includes the Morning News and the Star Telegram, America's Obituaries and Death Notices, Heritage Quest, Sanborn Maps are useful as well. Handbook of Texas, Western, and Native American databases. And there's also a Hobby and Craft Reference Center, which might have things that were, if you know, like for instance, an ancestor was into a certain type of crafting or that kind of thing, or an important aspect of family life, you could look up how that craft might have been done, if that's an option there too. So again, the Dallas Morning News Archive is really important for a lot of ways. You can find a lot of information on there. You can search for people's names, that kind of thing. And the Genealogy Bank has over 300 years of historical newspapers, books, pamphlets, and government records on them available. The Texas Digital and Sanborn maps are useful because they were fire insurance maps. So what it would show you is basically like a blueprint of the property, and it would show you what the original structure looked like, if there were any outbuildings, that kind of thing, and also lists who lived there and that kind of thing. It's very useful for seeing how properties were and what changes that might have been made to them as well. So that's an interesting resource to use, and that's in our maps section in the databases. And there's more, besides this is the 7th floor. The 8th floor, as I'm sure you're aware, has a lot of interesting information specifically for genealogy. The Lloyd DeWitt box truck Genealogy Collection, as it's now known, is really prolific. It's one of the top 5 genealogy collections in the United States. Collection spans all 50 states and many international locations. They've got new material added constantly. They collect records and record transcriptions, guides and how-to resources, family and local histories, social and ethnic histories, military histories, and primary source materials. And then, as you're aware, DGS partners with them to do a lot of really great programming, and they've really been doing a lot of really great work, even though we've been closed. And that's one of the things that I'm really glad that we've been able to do, is continue working with DGS and getting things done. So in their holding are over 123,000 volumes, over 64,000 rolls of microfilm, 89,000 microfiche, 700 maps and charts. They've got the census information that I mentioned before, tax records. They've got the Etsy Smith funeral home records and ledgers that are from 1880 to 1978, and the McGowan funeral home records, which are funeral files, and they're also indexed through the DGS website by the African American Special Interest Group from 1956 to 1995. So that's really a great resource that we've been able to get online with the help of DGS, and I've used that collection for exhibits before, and it's really kind of a really interesting collection. So the vertical family files are another thing that they have, which include family histories and unpublished manuscript items, pages from family Bibles. They have family group sheets, newspaper clippings, photographs, and newspapers of various topics related to family histories. So they've got a family file index of finding aid. It's indexed by surname and available both at the reference desk and online. So you can go online and be able to look that up and figure out what they have available. They've got Texas County rolls from 1846 to 1910, which include Republic of Texas information. And it's a great way to locate people between the census years. And that's a screenshot of it. So some general information, they, as I'm sure you're aware, we work with DGS, and you're doing currently, as they mentioned, the virtual volunteer reference, but we have a long relationship with DGS, and these are just some of the things that we've done with them. Publications and resources available for purchasing at the volunteer desk when we're open. But I'm sure that you've got have a mechanism for doing that online at this point. And a lot of searchable information is available through the DGS website, which is really useful. And I've referred people to that website quite a bit when I've gotten ancestral questions for looking up local information, because it's really a robust website. And so we're very happy that that's something we can refer customers to. The family histories that they have are one-of-a-kind family histories and a lot of out-of-print books. And then also, just to I'm sure you're aware, undoubtedly, that the creative spaces that we have in the library include the Heritage Lab, which DGS was instrumental in helping us to create, and it's got books, manuscripts, and letters, or it can be scanned, as well as large scrapbooks and photographs. There's AV material for doing VHS, anything from Super 8 to HDV tapes. You can do audio cassettes, slides and negatives. So that's an opportunity once we're reopened to let people come in and scan their own materials and preserve their family histories and their unique items. And that's a really great thing that we're happy to do. And as someone that believes in digital preservation and digital surrogacy as a library initiative, I think it's a very vital thing that the library has a very important role in making sure that people can preserve their own materials for decades to come, and not have to worry about if the physical original item gets damaged or lost, and at least you've got some sort of digital record of what that was. So this is information about making appointments in the Heritage Lab. Here's the number you can call. I don't think they're currently doing that with us being closed, but again, any questions about the Heritage Lab can be directed to the genealogy manager, Stephanie Bennett. Her email is stephanie.bennett@dallascityhall.com. And this is the contact information for our unit. So if you want to call us at 214-670-1435 or email us at texas@dallaslibrary.org. We are happy to take in any reference requests you have via email. We do get a lot of requests, so it does take us a bit of time to get back to you, but we will make an effort to, whether you need to do a lookup in the newspaper microfilm, or you want us to look in the any number of items in our collection, we can do that for you and provide you with digital scans of things, since you can't come into the library. So we're happy to do that. That's pretty much the long and short of it. So I will try to unshare my screen.
Thank you very much, Brandon. There's just all sorts of treasures on the 7th floor as well as the 8th floor. So now's a chance if you have a question for Brandon. I do notice that Mary asked if there would be copies of the slide presentation. This program has been recorded and will be on the DGS website. So the entire lecture will be on the DGS website in a couple of days.
I can email DGS a PDF version of this if they want to distribute that as well, if someone needs it.
Thank you very much. That would be an excellent addition to our website. Do appreciate it.
I noticed that my PowerPoint kept trying to go up like one slide ahead. I had to keep backtracking, so it might be a little confusing.
That's okay. So if anyone has a question, unmute yourself, and we'll try to get you an answer.
So Brandon, this is Tony Hansen. Would your offer to help extend to looking up for photographs if we're looking for a particular historical picture?
Yeah, that we do a lot of photo reference through our email as well. That's one of the big things that we do. And so one of the things we're trying to do, like I said, is get more of the stuff available through the library catalog, so customers can actually go themselves and find things without having to go through us to make it, empower the customer more. The interface is a little clunky as far as getting the image to load, because you have to do some right clicking and things like that. But yeah, so there's that option. And, you can always email us with your request, and we'll get back with you. We'll get back with you with what we find. And the good thing about our photo collection is that we offer photo licensing. So depending on what you want to use it for, we can provide you a high resolution scan for a fee of $25. We can give you based on your specifications for what you need. We have people that request photographs for everything from their own family research to doing academic papers, or they're doing a documentary. We recently had a request from HBO to use images that we had for a documentary that they were doing. So it's a common thing that we deal with on a daily basis.
I have a question. My name is Joanne Clements. Do your archives contain any states other than Texas?
No, our focus specifically is Texas. Our main focus is Dallas specifically, and then we have larger things about the state of Texas as well. But anything that's like outside of Texas, we usually refer to the eighth floor because they're not only the genealogy floor, but they're the general history floor. So they have a lot of like national history things and things about other states as well.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Brandon,
And
this is Caroline Simpson. I think your presentation was great, but it moved when I was trying to write something down. Dallas County divorces you have on the 7th floor?
we've got divorce records, I believe, indexed among they're in the civil court papers,
Got
I
it.
believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm going to send out the PowerPoint, a PDF
Yeah.
version of that. Yes.
Thank you. And do you have your sportatorium presentation available?
I'm trying to think if I did it for Preservation Dallas. I don't know if they recorded or not, but I don't have a recording of it myself.
Oh, well,
So
okay.
I need to
The
find
paper
out.
was in the pamphlet and it was really good. I enjoyed it. It's a good part of Dallas history.
Yeah, and I was really pleased about when I researched that how sort of quirky and interesting that entire history was of that building and all the things that happened there. So it's a really unique part of Dallas history.
Brandon, we have a question about what is a mug book?
So a mug book really is sort of a more of a pictorial book of information on people, sort of a focusing on giving little bios of people and like pictures about them. That's just like a colloquial term, but it's a way to find sort of like quick sort of bios and like sort of like a mugshot, like you would think of for an inmate, but instead of that, it's just general people and information about people. So we've got like books about like early Dallas families and things like that, have photographs of early Dallas residents and notable Dallas sites and things like that in our collection. I forget the name of it, but there's one that we keep on the reference desk that's often requested that has a lot of like early Dallas family information and things like that. So, and we do have, I know we've got records. I see the other question in the chat about the railroad information. I know we've got some information about the local railroads in general. We've got a number of reference books, I'm sure, that we can look. And even though you can't check out any of our reference books, what we can do is look in our catalog to see if other branches or other floors in this building have circulating copies that you can check out. Sometimes there are some books that we have that the genealogy floor has also that you can check out and have get through the curbside service. But let's see what else. Oh, and then in relation to the catalog, I said that at the other question in the chat. So you don't need a library card to look at the digital photographs. What you need your library card for is to access the databases. So there's a databases tab on the library website that's separate from the actual catalog that has like Newsbank, where the Dallas Morning News archive is for the newspapers and various things. And what that will do is prompt you to log in with your library card and your PIN number. And so that you'll need your library card for. But like searching the catalog for our digital information, and also one of the things that we're working on that's on there right now that we're working to expand what's available is our oral history. So there are transcripts and there are audio clips of interviews that were done by the library for various initiatives over the decades that are available digitally as well. And that doesn't require a library card either. And so the trick with that, with the searching for photographs issue, is that because of the way that the library catalog works and the way that the browser settings are, sometimes when you click on the record, it won't show you the picture immediately. It'll show you like a little icon and you have to click on that and possibly right click it to get it to load on another tab. So it's a little bit cumbersome, but once you do that, you should be able to see a web version of the image. And it still has like the metadata describing what the image was and the date and any kind of descriptive information as well that besides the photographs themselves. And you can get a Dallas Public Library card, currently too, by going through the library website. They have a mechanism for applying for a card. And then I believe the system is that there's a mechanism online where you apply for the card. You have to send in to a specific library email address a photo in an email of your driver's license, and then they will be able to get a copy of that and then issue a card number to you. So there's a mechanism for doing that, even though you can't come into a branch online through the library. I think it's on the homepage. There's an option for library cards to go. If you click on that. So, and then the way that the Dallas Public Library cards are set up is you have to be a resident of the city of Dallas to get a Dallas Public Library card. But if you live in Dallas County or some other part that's not actually part of the city of Dallas, you can often get a TechShare card with the library that's nearest to you that has privileges for using reciprocal privileges at our library and other libraries throughout Texas. And so I don't think will get you into the databases, but it would at least let you check out material through the website.
Okay, do we have, I think we've gotten all of our chat questions answered. Anyone else have a question? Well, Brandon, thank you so much for giving us all this information about the resources at our central library. Maybe one day we'll be able to get back. Again,
we're all gearing up for whenever that day eventually is. So
yeah, and so at this point, there's no definite date.
None that I've heard, no.
Right. So a lot of it depends on how things go in Dallas County, and unfortunately, COVID cases are on the rise again. So, but
in
it
the
is.
meantime, keep a hold of that that Texas at DallasLibrary.org email, and you can email us, questions, and we can do what we can to, email you answers. So.
All right. Well, next month, first Saturday, normally we would be having a award ceremony and a holiday lunch. We have changed that schedule this year because we had conflict with both the children's parade on the first Saturday and then the big marathon on the second Saturday. So we have a regularly scheduled educational program on Masonic records on the December meeting. So the award ceremony and the lunch is now scheduled for May 2021, and hopefully by then we can meet for the lunch. So if no other questions, thank you for joining us today. Please come back and join us in December, first Saturday in December, and then join us for any of our SIGs meetings or our virtual help desk on November 24th. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. This has been a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. If you're already a member, thank you. If you're not a member, please consider joining now by going to dallasgenealogy.com and clicking on the membership tab. Your membership dues will help us support the genealogy section of the Dallas Public Library, and that will allow us to continue our education and preservation efforts.